Hello friends, welcome to the fourth day of our 100-day prelims challenge 2018. We are going to cover certain portions of modern Indian history on the day 4th of 10 days of modern Indian history, which we have dedicated the initial 10 days. So now let's begin with the syllabus of these MCQs. We are going to discuss the MCQs regarding these 10 topics. These are Pitt's India Act, Charter Act of 1833, Battle of Plassey, Industrial Revolution in Britain, Lord Dalhousie's tenure, permanent settlement, Rayatwari settlement, Mahalwari settlement, introduction of civil services, and the tenures of Lord Cornwallis and William Bentinck. So, if you want to revise and go through these topics in order to better understand the explanation of these MCQs or solving these MCQs, if you want, you can read these topics prior to solving. You can find these questions and answer key and explanations on our website, and you can also listen to this explanation on our YouTube channel. We hope you are benefited by this initiative. The sources you can refer are the standard NCERT class 12 Bipan Chandra chapter 3 and 4, NIOS materials, and previous year obviously question papers. So let's begin today's challenge. First question is, which of the following is are true regarding the Charter Act of 1833? It is also known as St. Helena Act. It reduced the East India Company from a commercial body to a purely administrative body. Yes, it is true. And also the first one option there. The Charter Act of 1833 is also known as St. Helena Act because the island of St. Helena was procured by the British Crown. And third option is Lord Cornwallis became the first Governor General of British India by this act. No, it was William Bentinck at the time of introduction of this Charter Act of 1833. So the option 3 is incorrect. The correct options would be 1 and 2 only. So the answer would be A, 1 and 2 only. Now let's discuss the explanation. Charter Act of 1833, also known as St. Helena Act 1833 or the Government of India Act 1833, was passed by the British Parliament to renew the Charter of East India Company, which was last renewed in 1813. So every 20 years there was a renewal of this charter. The British government had done a careful assessment of the functioning of the company, and they were of opinion that the commercial activities were not very transparent, and the agents of company East India Company were not performing a transparent job of a financially transparent job. So that's why the British government took over the commercial control of the business from India. So it retained the commercial activity and gave the administrative part to the East India Company. With this, the British were allowed to settle freely in India. This act made the Governor General of Bengal the Governor of British India. So at that time, Lord William Bentinck was the Governor General of Bengal. So he became the first Governor General of British India by the introduction of Charter Act 1833. So now let's move on to the second question. Consider the following about the Pitt's India Act of 1784. The first act in the regulation of East India Company was Regulating Act in 1773. We have already discussed it in our previous video. So this is Pitt's India Act came 11 years after the Regulating Act, which regulated the affairs of company. So let's read the options. First one is, it abolished the dual government of Nawab and Company. This Pitt's India Act, no. Uh, it was regarding the dispute between the company and the crown. So the first option seems incorrect. It was later replaced by Regulating Act. Second option is also incorrect because Regulating Act was the first act which came prior to the Pitt's India Act, not after the Pitt's India Act. So the both the options seemed incorrect. So the option answer would be D, none of the above. Let's read the explanation. Pitt's India Act 1784 or the East India Company Act 1784 was passed by British Parliament to rectify the defects of the Regulating Act. Regulating Act came in 1773 and there was some defects So this Pitt's India Act came to rectify this defect. As a result of dual control or joint government in India by the Crown and in Great Britain and the British East India Company, with Crown having ultimate authority. So the this Pitt's India Act came for the legitimacy of the rule of this Crown. With this act, East India Company's political functions were differentiated from its commercial activities for the first time. The relation between company and the Crown established by this act kept changing and with time, and slowly the control of East India Company slipped. The control of economic affairs gradually shifted to the British Parliament with the time until the Government of India Act 1858 provided for the liquidation of British East India Company totally. After the 1858, the British East India Company was totally liquidated. So the Regulating Act of 1773 is known to be the first step in the of the British government to regulate the affairs of East India Company. It came prior to the Pitt's India Act. This act designated the Governor of Bengal as the Governor General of Bengal, who also was to serve as the Governor General of all British territories in India. So now let's move on to the third question. Which of the following is true regarding the Industrial Revolution in Britain in 1750s afterwards? So there, this Industrial Revolution question is also important from the point of view of mains. The UPSC keeps on asking uh, as to why the Industrial Revolution started only in Britain and not other areas. So you should go. We are going to discuss in different videos and different slides, and that why only in Britain, which conditions was favorable for the Industrial Revolution to happen only in Britain. Now let's read this question first. There was a rapid increase in the number of cities in Britain after Industrial Revolution. Yes, the population migrated from rural to urban settlements in the search of factory jobs. So obviously first option seems correct. The second is the condition of inhabitant in the city was better than those living in villages. No, this is not correct, because majority of population in cities, they were working overtime, they were living in slums, filthy, overpopulated shanties. So this option second is not correct. The correct option would be A, one only. Let's read the explanation. Britain became increasingly urbanized as a result of industrial revolution. More and more people began to live in factory towns. In 1750, Britain had only, these all things are given in NCRT, so we have to carefully revise these NCRT before prelims as well as to write the answers in mains. In 1750, Britain had only two cities with more than 50,000 inhabitants, but in 1851, their number increased to almost 29. The British society was divided into categories, that is, rich capitalist class and majority were in the poor working class. The majority were uprooted from their rural surroundings and they were now lived in a city full of smoke and filth, and the conditions of these workers were not very good. Even women and children were forced to work for more than 12 hours, for 12 to 14 hours, 16 hours even. So this question is very important from the point of view of mains, in which they can ask you why industrial revolution happened only in Britain. So we are going to discuss it in further videos. Now let's move on to fourth question. Which of the following is are true about Lord Dalhousie? Lord Dalhousie is also known as the father of modern industrialized India because of his various reforms ranging from introduction of railways to telegraph. So you should be aware about his initiatives, his positive initiatives, as well as whatever he did for the capturing of the territories of India. So it was Lord Dalhousie who implemented the doctrine of lapse. Yes, it is obviously correct. He was defeated by Sikh in Second Anglo-Sikh War in 1849, 48, 49. No, second one is not correct. Rather, Sikhs were defeated by Lord Dalhousie, and he annexed this state of Punjab by the way of war. And other different states like Jhansi, Satara, he annexed by the doctrine of lapse. So the answer would be one only, A. Now let's read the explanation. Lord Dalhousie implemented the doctrine of lapse, whereby, in the absence of a natural heir, the sovereignty of Indian state was to lapse to the British, as such rulers were not permitted to adopt a son to inherit their kingdoms. Lord Dalhousie served as a Governor General of India from 1848 to 1856. During the period Second Anglo-Sikh War, 1849 was fought, in which the Sikhs were defeated again, and Dalhousie was successful in annexing the whole Punjab to the British administration. He annexed many other states by the doctrine of lapse. During his tenure, first railway line between Bombay and Thane was opened in 1853. This is a quite famous incident in history. The first railway line in the year 1853 between Bombay and Thane, and in the same year Calcutta and Agra were connected by the telegraph. So Dalhousie is considered as a father of modern industrialized India due to his certain initiatives of uh, expanding the railways and telegraph. His other reforms included the setting up of the Public Work Department and passing of Widow Remarriage Act 1856. Now let's move on to the other question. Who among the following fought or supported the British in the Battle of Plassey? Um, those who supported it is asking Sirajuddaula. Obviously, he was the Nawab who fought against the British. So, first one would not be the answer. And if we look at the options, there is only one option, option B, in which the name of Sirajuddaula is not mentioned. So, by elimination method, you can even if we do not know about Rai Durlab, and obviously people know about Mir Jafar, he defected the Nawab and supported the British. So even if we do not know, we can and still answer this question by the elimination round. So the correct option would be B only. Let's move on to read the explanation. The conspirators included Mir Jafar, paymaster of the army, Rai Durlab, Yar Lutuf Khan, and Om Chand, a merchant, and several other officers of the army. The Battle of Plassey was a decisive victory for the British East India Company over the Nawab of Bengal and his French allies. So French also fought uh, from the side of Nawab Sirajuddaulah. You should remember this. And the battle happened on 23rd of June 1757. 1757 Battle of Plassey. The battle consolidated the company's presence in Bengal, which later expanded to cover much of the India over the next 100 years. The battle took place at the Palasi, which in English is called as Plassey, on the banks of Bhagirathi River, about 150 kilometers from the north of Calcutta and south of Murshidabad, then capital of Bengal. So Murshidabad was capital of Bengal. Now in Nadia district it is. Uh, Robert Clive bribed Mir Jafar. So from the British was the main leader was Robert Clive, who bribed Mir Jafar, the commander in chief of Nawab's army, and also promised him to make him Nawab of Bengal. He defeated the Nawab Sirajuddaulah at Plassey in 1757 and captured Calcutta. So this way, it would be answer would be B only. So let's move on to the sixth question. Consider the following statements in context of William Bentinck. His tenure is known for the abolition of sati. Yes, William Bentinck. When it comes to the abolition of sati, we should recall the name of William Bentinck as well as Raja Ram Mohan Rai. His efforts for bringing up the issue of sati to the government, British government. So first one is correct. He introduced vernacular language as a medium of education. No, he facilitated the introduction of English as the uh, medium of education, and his vision was to educate Indians so that they become a gateway uh, uh, for the ease of administration of India. So he intended to make the Indian people as Babu. That was they should be brown in color, but English in education. So second option would be incorrect. Thuggy and Dacoity Department was created by William Bentinck. Yes, he also took initiatives to various initiatives like abolition of sati and stopping and of Thuggy. So option 3 would also be correct. So correct option would be B, 1 and 3 only. Let's read the explanation. Lord William Bentinck served as the Governor General of India between 1828 to 35. His tenure is known for the social reforms such as abolition of sati in 1829, suppression of thuggy, suppression of infanticide, etc. English was introduced as a medium of higher education on the advice of his council minister Thomas Macaulay, which is also known as you must have come across this minute of Macaulay, which facilitated the introduction of English education in India. So this is quite famous topic of UPSC also. We should go through the minute of Macaulay in detail in order to answer these questions regarding the introduction of English by the minute of Macaulay. In 1835, the Thuggy and Dacoity department was created by William Bentinck, which ultimately led to the a reduction of cases of Thuggy and Dacoity. Let's move on to seventh question. Which of the following is are true about the permanent settlement? Permanent settlement was introduced by Lord Hastings. No, it was introduced by Lord Cornwallis. Cornwallis is also known as the father of Indian civil services because he reformed the civil services and he structured it. He made it to be of various reforms he introduced, like intro. For example, the officers of Indian civil services were now selected on the basis of merit. So he is regarded as the founding father of Indian. Lord Cornwallis is regarded as the founding father of Indian civil services also. So first option is obviously wrong. Permanent settlement was introduced by Cornwallis. The revenue settlement schedule was changed from annual to decennial, that is of 10 years. Yes, the option second is correct. Earlier there used to be a yearly revenue settlement system, but after the introduction of permanent settlement, the revenue was settled for 10 years, the proportion of revenue. So let's read the explanation. Permanent settlement was introduced in 1793 by Lord Cornwallis and covered around one-fifth of British territory in India, including Bengal, Bihar, Orissa. So mostly the states which came under permanent settlement were from Bengal to North Indian territory up to Bengal, East India, Odisha, northern Karnataka, Varanasi, and some other areas. With the permanent settlement, the auction of land. Earlier, there used to be the auctioning of land that was known as Izaredar system of Bengal that came to an end. The previous experiment of Izaredar system was based on the annual assessment of revenue, while this permanent settlement to streamline the revenues of company, Cornwallis changed the settlement schedule from annual to decennial, that is of 10 years. So he gave them it more stability. The revenue settlements were settled for 10 years after the introduction of this permanent settlement. Next question is also about Lord Cornwallis. Consider the following statements in context of Cornwallis. He is regarded as the father of Indian civil services. Yeah, true, because he reformed Indian civil services, he structured it so as to improve the functioning of Indian civil services. He facilitated the translation of existing Hindu and Muslim penal codes in, yeah, this comes under the judicial reforms of Lord Cornwallis. So both options seem to be correct. Let's read the explanation. The answer is C. The civil services were reformed and modernized by Lord Cornwallis, and hence he is called the father of Indian civil services. Cornwallis realized that in order to consolidate the British rule in India, it was very important to organize the civil services. Cornwallis received critical assistance from others in his effort to introduce legal reforms. Other people including William Jones. William Jones was an expert on languages and translated Sir William Jones. He started the Asiatic Society somewhere around 1780s. An expert on the language translated the existing Hindu and Muslim penal codes into English so that they could be evaluated and applied by the English speaking judges. So William Jones was a leading figure who was helpful in the translation of these Hindu and Muslim penal codes. So Cornwallis began in 1787 by giving limited criminal judicial powers. This comes into the judicial reforms of Cornwallis. Criminal powers to the company's revenue collectors who already also served as the civil magistrate. So in this question we have studied the reforms of Lord Cornwallis in context of administration and judiciary as well. Now let's move on to the ninth question. Consider the following about the Mahalwari system of land revenue settlement. Mahalwari system, which were in which the whole Mahal or the village was considered as a unit. So it was mostly introduced in the northwestern India. So let's read these options. It was introduced in Maharashtra and Madras. No, in Maharashtra and Madras, the system was known introduced was Rayatwari system. So first is incorrect. In this, the land revenue was fixed for the whole village. Yeah, option 2 is correct. So let's read the explanation. I guess most of you would be aware about these all three different systems. So it would be quite easier for you to answer these the coming MCQs. Malwari system was introduced in the northwest provinces, the Punjab, Delhi, parts of central India and Uttar Pradesh. In this system, the land was not owned by an individual, be it zamindar or the cultivator, but the whole group of estates or the village that was called as mahal. So mahal was the estates held by the group or the village. That's why it was called as the Mahalwari system. The mahal was collectively known as the landlord, and the revenue was collected from the head of the mahal known as talukdar. So who was responsible in Mahalwari? The talukdar was responsible for collection of revenues. The Malwari system is these all three systems are often asked in UPSC, so you should prepare them very in very detail. Now let's move on to the question number 10th. Which of the following is not true about the Rayatwari system? Rayatwari system, as we have discussed that it was introduced in South India and Maharashtra. So let's read the options. It recognized farmers as the sole proprietors of land. Yes, it directly recognized those people who were farming on the land and dismissing the rights of tenant. Exactly, the owner was called the Rayat. No, the farmer was called as the Rayat. That's why it was known as Rayatwari settlement. At first, it was introduced in Madras Presidency. Yes, the C option is correct, and so the wrong option is the landowner was the Rayat. No, the wrong option is B. Let's read the explanation. In the East India Company's territories, the Rayatwari system was introduced by Thomas Munro and Captain Reed, first in the Madras Presidency. It was later extended to the Bombay, parts of Bengal, Assam, Kru, etc. This system was exactly opposite to what was being done in Zamindari. So in this system, the peasants were given the ownership rather than the zamindars. So there was no intermediary. These lands were directly given control to the peasant by the company, so they were directly responsible for the revenues, the for giving the taxes, and they would make direct payment to the state as a 55% of the produce. So we have covered all these three settlements: Rayatwari, Mahalwari, and the third one is Rayatwari, Mahalwari, and Zamindari systems. So the today we concluded all these 10 MCQs regarding the modern Indian history, and I hope you have understood all these topics, and we will come with more MCQs on day 5 regarding the modern Indian history. Meanwhile, you can download all these question papers from our website. Also, we are introducing the ethics, some video lectures regarding ethics, and We have also published our ethics card series, which comprises of 70 different definitions of ethics, which will be available online as well as on the all the leading bookstores across the country. So you can just order these ethics card, which will help, which will we hope will be of immense help for you to in the preparation of mains ethics paper. Have a good day.